From sticking close to the original comic to playing with emotions and shocking the heck out of us. Here are some of the major differences between the Walking Dead video game and the series. So, the Telltale video game adaptation has kept getting better and has a story that's just as interesting as the series, and that too while staying true to the comics. While AMC's show likes to say that it has the same no character is safe theme as HBO's Game of Thrones, both shows are very different. Even when all hell breaks loose, you can't help but think that the most popular main characters will stay safe, like Rick Grimes and Daryl Dixon, and the obvious reason to keep Rick and Daryl on series is to avoid losing viewers. Telltale's game puts players in the role of Lee Everett, the main character. He's a great character with a lot of depth and humanity, which helped players feel close to him as he took Clementine under his wing. This is why it hurt so much more when Lee died at the end of the game, especially since young Clem had to try to take care of herself. So from the point of view of the story, it was a risky move by Telltale, but it paid off, cause the thing is, Lee was a tough, caring person who didn't mind putting others ahead of himself. He was strong, smart, and had great instincts for staying alive. Still, Rick is a much better leader than he is.
Don't.
Me? You mean me?
Lee's group fell apart after 3 days, which led to his death. Rick, on the other hand, has been able to keep his family safe and his friends alive. Well, mostly. But Rick isn't just a good leader, he's the ultimate badass. Whether it was getting rid of Pete in Alexandria, or getting his group rid of a group of cannibals, Rick is the guy. But one of the most common complaints about the series is that it doesn't stay close enough to the comic. The show completely changes the characters' personalities or throws out major plot points. And a big reason why the game is better than the show is that it stays true to the source material. The game is in its own thing that has nothing to do with any franchise. Instead, it's more like a spin-off series or a sketchy retelling of the story. Not only is the game's art style similar to the comics, but Kirkman has said that Season 3 of Telltale's adaptation is supposed to follow the same timeline as the comic.
Writing the same story for that? I don't know. It seems, I don't know. Hopefully I have other ideas, but you never know.
If it came true, is that when you would stop?
I mean, look, honestly, I have to acknowledge that if it did come true, I would be the luckiest guy on earth. I mean, that is, you know, that would be remarkable if this thing were to last that long, but I would still be depressed.
So the Telltale version is much more interesting, mostly because of what it is. And I think the game series makes the story super interesting by giving you choices. The decisions you make in the game can often change the story in a horrible way. So if you make the wrong decision, one of your favorite characters could die, or you could even turn a friend into an enemy. Also, the kind of theme you choose helps make the story less predictable and much more intense and interesting. See, the Telltale version uses the player's choices to make them feel as if they're a part of something. That's quite smart, not gonna lie, because it makes the players feel they're in control. But AMC's version is almost unmatched in its ability to shock viewers with its violence. Even when you know a character's gonna die, it can be hard to watch how brutally that happens, especially if you've grown attached to them. When Negan had the group on their knees, it was undeniably one of the most violent and emotionally draining scenes in the whole series. Plus, remember Fear the Walking Dead? That spin-off series has given viewers a different view of how the events have played out in a different part of the country, and that has helped keep the TV version of the franchise interesting. But this is also what the Telltale series did when they changed the point of view to a new group of survivors in the 400 Days DLC. Now here's the coolest part. The Telltale series took this a step further by putting you in the shoes of the future bad guys in Season 2. This gave the characters more depth and humanity, the ones you'd come to think of as your enemies. It's an idea that could be interesting for the TV show as well, and the governor character touched on it a little bit, but it hasn't been used in more than 1 or 2 episodes. But the zombie attacks are one of the most annoying parts of Telltale's version. Most of the time, they're made up of QuickTime events, which can sometimes add tension and excitement, but honestly, they don't really make you feel as scared as the TV show. It It has been shown on the series that zombies aren't the scariest thing in the world, but they are still a threat that keeps getting worse and is always there. So even though Rick and his group can handle a few walkers, things are a little different when there are a lot of them. On the show, there have been times when hundreds of zombies attacked at once. The attacks can be huge, and they're almost always scary and hard to predict. On the other hand, the tension in the game series comes from the fact that the story is based on your choices. While the experience can be harrowing and scary on an emotional level, Telltale's series is rarely scary to say the least, and there have been many times when the TV show has shown very scary things. A more recent example is when Rick and his group were caught at the end of season 6. The build up to the final scenes was a masterclass in horror, and the tension was at an all-time high. Even the music in the episode was a clear nod to John Carpenter, who's known as a master of horror.
Floods, fires, mudslides, you name it, we have it. And Kurt and I got together and talked, well, why don't we leave? We all stay there.
It was a lot like the Ducky Boy scene in the 1979 movie The Wanderers, if you remember, but fans of the series often complain that it's too dramatic. In the AMC version, the drama can sometimes slow the show down to a crawl, especially when it switches to a less interesting character's point of view. No offense to that character though, but as far as the game is concerned, it's quite straightforward really, so there's no drama or anything whatsoever, and that's one of the biggest differences between the game and the show. But then there's a problem, right? Because even though graphical technology and facial mapping have come a long way, video games are still not able to show real emotion. The performances by real people are a big reason why the shows are better than the video games. The art style of the Telltale series fits well with the comics, but their game engine isn't quite up to the task of showing a wide range of physical emotions to match the great voice acting. Some of the most memorable parts of the show have mainly come from how the actors have played their parts, such as Andrew Lincoln's ability to act with a range of emotions would be impossible to recreate with the game engine as it is now, so you get what I mean. But what really sets Telltale's version apart from the AMC's version is that it lets you get completely lost in the story. When done right, a video game can pull the player into its world in a much more meaningful way than a movie or TV show. Think of The Last of Us, how they played it so smartly.
I need something smuggled out of the city.
Just cargo, Joel.
I just want some simple gear, enough to set me on my way.
Telltale Games is the best at giving players a deep connection to their characters by giving them choices that matter. The choices also affect the game in ways that can make the player feel weak, emotional, and tense. This gives the game's story a deeper meaning and makes you keep going until the very end. Anyways, that's all for the major differences between the game and the show. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.